If you made the best coffee of your life, or maybe the best coffee of the month, do you think you could accurately go back tomorrow and brew exactly that same coffee? Because for the most of us, filter coffee at home is not consistent. We might change the way we grind our coffee, we might be pouring slightly differently, we could swirl at a different time, and then when the coffee tastes amazing, we just sort of nod and pretend we know what happened. If you're looking for something that might help, I think this could be something worth a watch. This new scale from Mavo is called the Lumicurve, and it has a few cool features that I think will really step up an experienced barista's game or a beginner looking to learn. It's got a lot of features packed into a small unit, so in this episode of the Coffee Bill, we'll be taking a deep dive into it and having a good look at it. And if you're new here, my name is Billy. I make videos about coffee and I really love doing it. If you love watching it, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Thank you so much. So let's get into it. This is the Mavo Lumicurve. The first thing you'll notice about the Mavo Lumicurve is it doesn't really look like a traditional coffee scale, and it feels more like a piece of consumer tech. It kind of has that feeling of a smartphone, you know, you just want to stick it in your pocket. And it feels like there's a lot more going on than you'd normally expect from a coffee scale as well, and we'll get into a few more of those features in a bit. Now, this particular scale is a pre-production sample, so there will be some changes in comparison to the final version. Mavo tell me the final retail version will include upgraded packaging, it will have a glass screen with an upgraded anti-fingerprint coating, and it'll also have a tempered glass screen protector in the box as standard. There's also some software things that they'll be adding to add integration to an app, which will allow things like recipe sharing and all sorts of other stuff. So if you do notice any differences in this version and the final retail version, then that's why. But yeah, one of the things I immediately liked about this is the size of it. And let me show you what it does because I'm really excited about it. So we turn it on, and as you'd expect, you have this at the bottom. And you're thinking, okay, I'll chuck something on there. But what if it's too big for espresso? Well, we just turn it. And that little circle screen does that. I think that's so nice. I love that. So yeah, we're going to use this for espresso, for filter. We're going to run through some of the features and just generally give it a bit of a show. And a bit later, I will also test out one of my pet peeves on these scales. You build them to be portable and then they just aren't usable for a reason that I'll get onto later, but it really does grate me, and I'll tell you that in a bit. So anyway, let's brew some espresso with the Mavo Lumicurve. While we're waiting for the machine to heat up, let's have a closer look at this user interface. The display is where this scale really starts to separate itself from the competitors. Instead of simply showing weight and time, the Lumicurve is capable of displaying weight, time, brew ratio, flow rate, all simultaneously depending on the mode you're using. The screen itself is bright, it's easy to read, and surprisingly information dense without feeling cluttered. One feature that initially felt gimmicky but quickly grew on me is the rotating screen. The display automatically changes orientation depending on how the scale is positioned. For espresso, the information is orientated in one way. For Pourover, it rotates to suit a different viewing angle. It's one of those features that you do stop noticing after a few days because it simply just makes sense. Navigation is handled using 4 touch controls around the display, and after a short learning curve it becomes fairly intuitive, and switching between the modes is quick and straightforward. Okay, let's make some espresso. The machine's warmed up, we're ready to go. But before we start, let's talk about silicone, because Mavo include 2 types of these included as standard. For espresso, we want to be measuring our portafilter, and occasionally putting your portafilter down on a scale doesn't give you the best results. And I think that's a really nice touch, and it's nice to include both of them as standard. So let's brew. Now the first thing you'll see is the weights function is the biggest in purple at the top. Then at the bottom right, you've got the flow rate in grams per second, and then you've also got this option to press to complete weighing. You press that and it will log your ratio once you've put the coffee in your portafilter. Now as you start, it will actively monitor flow rate and it's drip triggered. So as soon as it detects some drips, it will start recording. Once it's completed recording, you can then press complete, and then it will show you your graph documenting your extraction, and you can then go back up to 3 shots and have a look at the graphs and compare. So you know that if you've nailed one shot, you can have a look and see exactly what's happened. I think that's a really nice feature. One thing that I think is worth mentioning is this weight in purple here. If you simply hold this top left button, it will change the focus. So you've got ratio in orange there, and you've got flow rate in green. If you double tap the top right button, you can look at your history, you can change how your espresso activates, so you've got cup triggered or drip triggered. You can change your display, the brightness, the units, minimum weight, the beep, which we can change now. And that just gets rid of the beep completely. You've got all sorts of ways to change the settings to suit your brewing. Let's start thinking about pour over. Now, to get to the pour over function, it's really simple. You just press that top left button a couple of times for pour over. You'll see at the top, the weight in purple is the most prominent, and then you'll be able to set your ratio, and you'll also see a live output of your flow rate in grams per second. Once you've recorded the weight, it's also drip triggered, so as soon as you start adding water, it will automatically start, which means you're not faffing around pressing any buttons when you're just trying to pour. Sometimes I find it annoying having to pour and press buttons at the same time, and I'd much rather just focus on pouring water only. Again, once you finish brewing, it'll show you a graph documenting all your pouring, your flow rates, and you can also go back up to 3 times. One feature I really think they should introduce when they have the app integration is an option to plot one of your brews that you think is brilliant and have it as an option as a sort of ghost mode, so you can pour water up to the sort of levels that you've set, and then you've got a pretty good guide as to whether you're doing it right. And then with everything else consistent, your grind size, your prep, your filter papers, your water temperature, you'll just be able to get a very consistent cup of coffee with every variable kind of controlled as best you can, which I think is a really cool feature. So hey, if they do sort of ghost brews, then make sure you come back and tell me that I made a good suggestion, because that'd be quite cool, wouldn't it? Right, let's test something that I find really annoying. So earlier on, I said my pet peeve with scales is when they're portable, they come with a case. You take them outside on a bright day when you're most likely to go outdoors, but it's too sunny to see the screen. And I'll hand over to Beach Billy for this one, because he's enjoying the sunny day by the beach. Why wouldn't you? One thing I find really annoying about scales when they're built to be portable is the screen is never bright enough to be seen in bright sunlight, which is the times when you're most likely to want to go outside. So I've taken it outside and we're just going to turn it on and have a look at, see how the screen holds up. Wow, I'm in bright sunlight, it's a lovely day. I've just been for a swim and this is super bright. You can make out all the colour, all the numbers, and I think the only thing on there that I can't really see is the red time word. I mean, I can see it, I can read it, but that's the only thing that I struggle to pick up on the screen. I can switch between modes really easily. And yeah, it's holding up really well. So it did pass the test. It was a bright screen and it was good to see it in the sunlight, being able to be read well, which means I've got full confidence in this scale, no matter what my use scenario. And I think overall it's a very impressive scale. Make sure you check out the Kickstarter. I'll pop the link in the bio and I'll also tag it as a pinned comment as well, so you can see it there. But overall, I'm really excited by this scale that Mavo have created, and I think you might really enjoy it as well. So make sure you check that out. Drop me a subscribe or like or anything really if you liked this video and think it was at all helpful. Lots of love and goodbye.